Y'all thought 2024 was bad with Wuthering Waves versus Genshin Impact. Man, 2025 is going to be absolutely nuclear. Ananta, Neverness to Everness, Wang Yue, there is a surge of open world action urban fantasy gacha games coming that is going to divide players like no game has before. Only one gacha game will emerge victorious, will come out on top. Nobody can predict which one that'll be, but I do have a few thoughts based off of what I've seen, what I've played, and heard after speaking with some of the dev teams behind the games. Now, I'm not going to play into this tribalistic gacha war that so many people seem to be fond of. I'm not here to say this game is better than that, or this game is going to be a success and the other will be a failure. Instead, I think all of these games actually look really good. I think based off of what I played of Neverness to Everness, it was a very fun game. I didn't like the combat. They have reached out to me personally and told me that they were going to be improving the combat specifically, and that they had directed my feedback to the appropriate parties. The traversal system where the wall running was limited to the red-haired character was something that I was definitely not fond of, and I have told them that that is not a good direction to take, limiting something so crucial to a single character that most people aren't ever going to use. Ananta has shown incredible footage, albeit pre-rendered, from the 2-3 trailers they've released thus far. And like, if we're just basing it off of that alone, I'd say Ananta right there is the game that I am most looking forward to. Wang Yue, I've actually been covering for over a year now, back when it looked significantly worse, like worse than Tower Fantasy looks, and Tower Fantasy is at the bottom of the barrel in terms of graphical prowess. But they've shown exemplary progress since then and have actually become one of the better looking upcoming gacha games. NTE has thus far held one test phase. This was a Chinese beta. I was invited. There were, I think, a couple dozen Western content creators that were invited to this. We were invited personally in an effort to gather feedback from the perspective of Western creators and Western gamers. This is because the Neverness team have made it very clear, abundantly clear, that they are at the very least attempting to listen to the feedback from Western players, which is a fantastic move because, well, Tower Fantasy didn't really do that and Tower Fantasy failed. I think showing this level of communication with players is a step in the right direction. I think it is great that they are doing that. I genuinely appreciate the Neverness devs, the publishers, the community manager, and the team for being so transparent with us as players. I think the Ananta team is very, very hard at work. They have shown more progress between Project Mugen and Ananta than I think any other gacha game. And Ananta was the first gacha game announced of its kind. I think it was like a year, 2 years ago when Project Mugen was first announced. The concept of an open world urban fantasy gacha game wasn't even really a thing. We had Genshin, we had Tower Fantasy, we had Wuthering Waves. That was pretty much it. And I guess Ni no Kuni Cross Worlds and like Noah's Heart, if you consider them even real competitors. But when Project Mugen was announced, and then they went silent for several months, Neverness decided they were going to announce a game that was exactly like Project Mugen was. And then Wang Yue announced that they were doing pretty much the same thing. And then here we are. It is the 1st of January, 2025. Neverness has held a beta test. The beta test was very limited. A lot of features were not implemented. They have elaborated on numerous different alterations that are being made to the game between now and the next test phase. The Ananta team, while they have also been, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say a little bit transparent with me from what I've heard, because I do have contacts with a lot of different developers and a lot of different gacha publishers that I can't really get into because I'm not really sure what I'm allowed to say and what I'm not allowed to say. But from what I've heard, the Ananta devs are very hard at work. The trailer has exhibited features that no other gacha game has. Before we go any further, I do want to take a moment here to thank all of my incredible patrons over on Patreon and my YouTube channel members who allow for me to continue to do dedicated videos like this every single day. You guys are absolutely phenomenal, and I genuinely cannot thank you all enough for the support. I feel like the common concern the sentiment I heard with regards to NTE was that it felt too limiting, it felt too safe, and it felt too ordinary. Now, that's not what I'm saying. I very strongly addressed my concerns in the dedicated video I did. That was with regards to the combat and, of course, the traversal and skill limitations. But what people really wanted, I think more than anything else, was a GTA 5 gacha game, or a Grand Theft Auto gacha, right? They wanted to be able to, evade the cops. They wanted to be able to run over pedestrians. They wanted to be able to hijack other cars. Like, they wanted a full-fledged Grand Theft Auto gacha. That is not what Neverness is. Neverness is much more contained, and admittedly, that will definitely work for it. That is perfectly fine. They are going for a very specific type of game, but Ananta in its trailer showed us that not only were you running from the law, not only could you hijack cars out in the streets, not only could you engage enemies in your vehicle, but it was all done with an incredibly stylistic aesthetic. And honestly, the reason the trailers for Ananta have reached millions of views when the trailers for Azure Premilia, Arc Knight, Zenfield, Neverness to Everness, Wang Yue have not, is because they knew what they were doing. They perfected this trailer, this formula, and this game from what we have seen based off of the trailer. Now again, the full definitive version of the game might differ from what we've seen in the trailers, but NetEase have done pretty good recently in terms of developing and publishing games. So I do have a certain level of hope that they will not miss the mark with this one. Wang Yue is, I think, even more extreme than Ananta is. From what we saw in the recent gameplay demonstration, not only can you hijack cars, not only can you run over other cars, hit pedestrians, destroy public property, but they also drew from Tears of the Kingdom, where you can craft your own vehicle, whether it's an aerial vehicle, a land vehicle, one that you can use to sail on the ocean, all of them, everything. There are really no limitations whatsoever when it comes to transportation in Wang Yue. It is absurd, it is over the top, and it looks great. There's kind of like a Pokemon capture ability in it that is going to aid in differentiating itself from Ananta and Neverness. This game right here, it offers so much more than we could have wanted out of a game of this kind. Ananta and Wang Yue are doing things so differently from one another, but also captivating the audience that are interested in a Grand Theft Auto gacha. At the end of the day, from what we've seen of everything, and I'm sure many of you feel the same way, all three of these games look very good. They'll look very fun. I'm sure they will all do very well upon release. But if there is going to be one clear winner between these three games, one that will soar above the rest, that will gain global recognition, it is going to be Ananta. Without a shadow of a doubt, will it be Ananta? I think Wang Yue is going to appease players in a different way, and I think Neverness is going to appeal to a different market, a different demographic as well. But I don't think either of those games are going to come close, regardless of how good both might ultimately be, to the level of success that Ananta will achieve. And also, if we're thinking about it here, Ananta is probably the most catchy and easy to remember, easy to pronounce name of all of them, and having a recognizable brand like that, like Ananta, is crucial. But that is just my opinion. I don't want to get into the whole tribalistic gacha wars thing where people are like, Ananta's gonna be better, Neverness is gonna suck, Wang Yue is gonna suck, Ananta's gonna suck because I like this game better. I think all the games are gonna be good. I do. But there is always going to be one that is better. Just because your game is better doesn't make the other game or games worse. It just makes them not as good. And at the end of the day, when we have very minimal, very limited time and can really only dedicate that to one game, then Ananta, I think, is going to be the game that we do. But I'm also open for your guys' opinions, for discussion, so let me know down in the comments below if you agree. Hey, where do you think you're going? I see what you're doing there. I see you navigating on over, scrolling on over to that X button. Don't you dare. What I need you to do is take a moment and click one of the videos that are about to appear as soon as I'm done talking. And trust me, you're gonna wanna.